Welcome to the...
Woo! Thank you.
Welcome to the Thunder and Lightning
We have
Show.
a very exuberant studio audience. I appreciate their enthusiasm.
Today, well, they're even more enthusiastic because we're talking about a protest subject,
Yes.
Priests' Lives Matter.
Priests' lives matter. John, do you believe that priests' lives matter, or do you hate the world and God?
Well, speaking from my own personal
That's
opinion,
not the right answer. Yes or no? Do priests' lives matter, yes or no?
I would say yes.
Okay, you can stay here, but if you weren't, I was going to hit you over the head with that steel chair and then go and break the windows in your car, because that's the way we get things done. Priests' lives matter. And I want everybody to chant after we're done with this show, we'll go do a march on the cathedral, etc. Anyway, sorry I interrupted you.
No, that's all right. We were just going to talk about bishops who oppress priests. And there's a lot of good priests out there, and they want to do their own thing. But bishops
Hopefully
won't
their
allow
own
them.
Catholic thing.
do their own thing independent of, they want to make their parishes more traditional. They want to do the traditional practices of the church, and their bishops are silencing them.
That seems to
using
be the
various
story,
means.
yes. It seems to be the story of pretty much every bishop in the United States of America, with a tiny number of exceptions, is that for the most part, bishops have become the enemies of the Catholic faith, the enemies of the sacraments, the enemies of the lay people, and that they treat priests and laity like we're convicts and inmates in a prison, and they are crooked, belligerent guards who come around and hit us with clubs and kick us and play games and throw us in solitary confinement and only give us cold mush to eat and take away our visitors and all this stuff. And I just did some preparation because I don't know what the origin of this was, but I got to think about the number of bishops who have abused priests. I'm not talking here about sexual abuse, although when it comes to McCarrick, he's done all that. Probably some other bishops too. But there were a couple in particular that I wanted to talk about, and this is just a microcosm. This is 3 examples, and this has probably happened in every diocese. Now we know. Let's talk about the present day. The number of bishops who have told their priests, "You shall not say a public mass. You shall not say the Latin Mass. You shall not give communion on the tongue. And if you do, I will suspend you immediately. I'll send you packing faster than the wind blows. You'll be gone." And is this the way that a father speaks to his children? Well, maybe if the children are on drugs and they've torn up the house or whatever, finally the father puts his foot down. But this is not the way a father usually treats his children if he loves them.
Actually, the father is the one that would be on drugs because of the Vatican II.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, yeah. So let's talk about in San Antonio. I remember I decided to do some research on this case. There they have there was the Anglican Youth Parish, Our Lady of the Atonement, which joined the Catholic Church in the 80s. And I remember a few years ago there was a hubbub there because their bishop had a dispute with the pastor there, who had been the only pastor that they had ever known, Father Christopher Phillips. He was a convert from the Anglican sect, and he joined the one true faith, the Catholic Church, and brought his whole group with him. And they used this Anglican-esque liturgy, which is really beautiful. I mean, it's 10 times better than the new Mass, and it's in English. So it became this big attraction. People showed up and are like, well, I like, the vernacular, but that whole Novus Ordo is just a train wreck. There's bongos, there's the dancing, there's the terrible music. But if I go to this Anglican Youth Parish, it's really nice. It's ad orientem. They have this beautiful chant. They use not street English or 60s English, but they use Elizabethan Jacobean English like you would see in the King James Bible or the Dewey Reeves Bible. So anyway, in January 2017, Father Phillips and his bishop, the Archbishop of San Antonio, Gustavo Garcia Siller, they had a dispute about that if that parish was going to join the Anglican Ordinariate. And apparently the whole dispute came about because money. Go figure. Who knew that bishops were so interested in money? I didn't know it. But anyway, So that parish has a ton of money because it has a really nice liturgy, a lot of families, a school. People are attracted. Again, I'm shocked. You mean people like a nice liturgy with music? Crazy. So anyway, the bishop didn't want that parish to leave his diocese and go to the Anglican Ordinariate because he wanted the money. So he kicked out Father Phillips without a canonical process. He just said, I'm removing you as a pastor, which is illegal. It's against the law. But the way this church functions now, nobody cares about the law. Just do whatever you want. Power is truth in the new church. And if I have the access to the money, I call the shots. And who cares about canon law? That's so JP2-ish. What matters is power. And I wield I'm like a Nietzschean. I'm willing myself to power, and you'll do what I say, miserable priest. So he kicked out Father Phillips, and get this, he said that Father Phillips and that parish were divisive. They were divisive because they have a different identity than the others in the diocese, and they're not conforming to the norms that exist in the San Antonio Archdiocese. So he kicked out Father Phillips, and I think he intended to seize the parish or do who knows what. But anyway, somehow Rome intervened. Father Phillips had friends, I guess, in high places. And in comes Bishop Lopez and the Anglican Ordinariate, and but the Pope waved his hand, signed a document, whoop! Out came that parish, went from the Archdiocese of San Antonio into the Anglican Ordinariate, and everybody was happy, and they have a right to, because now they're with their own kind, they're with their own right, this Anglican youth right, and in that sense, Bishop Lopez was kind of a hero who kind of worked all this. See what happens when you have a bishop on your side? Nobody can stand up to you. The authorities are scared to death of bishops. Priests they hate. They're like worms or ants that they'll stomp on. But when you become a bishop, they're scared to death and they treat you with kid gloves because they know, we got to treat him right. Because if he decides he's had enough, he could start a schism and have real priests, and they're not worried about the faith here. If they're worried about the money, they're like, he'll take people, and then that means we'll lose all the money. So let's try to keep this under wraps. Don't let anything bad happen here. So continuing on with the Ordinariate, now we have Bishop Lopez as not the protagonist, but the antagonist. And remember a few years ago, I think it was not the Feast of Christ the King in 2019, but it may have been 2018 when Father Von Treco, who I've met, and long before he was a priest, when he was just a layman, Father Von Treco, who was a priest for the Anglican Ordinariate, he preached that sermon which made it onto, I think it was on Remnant TV, maybe Sensus Fidelium, and he denounced the bad fruits of Vatican II. Now, I heard that sermon, I said, this is really solid, but whoever in the diocese there, the bishop of the diocese, Bishop Lopez, their hair got caught on fire when they heard that, because, again, when it comes to them, it's, money, and then also, the creed of the new church is, I believe in Vatican II, amen. And all that stuff about the Trinity, they're really not concerned. Who cares about homosexuality? Is it good, bad, indifferent? They don't care. As long as you say, I believe in Vatican II and the Holy Pontificate of the Francis, amen. Then that is the creed of membership into the modernist church. But anyway, so Father Treco said that Vatican II had bad fruits. Well, lo and behold, why is this appropriate? This very week, you had not only Bishop Schneider, but Archbishop Vigano, who has said, not only does, obviously Vatican II has bad fruits, but Vatican II contains errors about the religious liberty and the false religions. So they're now on the team. They see the problems with Vatican II. And thanks be to God that we now have bishops saying this, and that's tremendous. So anyway, Father Von Treco preached a sermon against Vatican II and the bad fruits, and Lopez, without even a thorough investigation or a hearing, decided he's suspending Father Von Treco, and he gave him like a week to sign some profession of fidelity or whatever. And then Father Treco says, I don't need to sign this. This whole process is not canonical. So Bishop Lopez gave him an excommunication. All right, okay, you're out. Well, gee, thanks. Again, was any of this done with the proper procedures through canon law? No, but who cares? Again, nobody cares about canon law. Does it make me money? Can I get rich with canon law? Do the crowds clap? What about the blue-haired old ladies, the Karens? The Karens and the MSNBCs, will they adore me, or the Democrat politicians? No, see, they clapped whenever I suspended a good priest. Whenever I had a banquet with Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine and Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, they clapped and the donations went up. So I just do whatever makes the claps happen. So anyway, Father Von Treco, excommunicated. He's been excommunicated for, I think, over a year. Of course he's appealing, but who knows, this thing is so slow, it takes Rome a year to do anything. It takes him a couple weeks for the envelope to come from this end of the room over to this guy. Then it's got to set for a while. You know, it's summer vacation. You expect me to open all these letters? Come on. The secretary opens one letter. I think I gotta go take an aspirin or something. Put these letters aside. Let's go for lunch. Let's have some wine or whatever. Let's examine this fellow we've all heard of, thanks to Church Militant, Father Paul Kalchik from the Archdiocese of Chicago. He got kicked out of his parish because some lay people found this sacrilegious rainbow banner that Cardinal Bernardin had hung up in the sanctuary. And so the lay people took this sacrilegious rainbow banner and they burnt it in the backyard. Now, Cardinal Tometa Supich found out about this, and of course he flipped because, I mean, again, Father Kalchik could have burnt the Bible or the Catechism of Trent, and I don't think Tometa Supich would have been all that upset. But it being the rainbow flag, which is practically it's the sacrament of the new false church, Supich, of course, wanted revenge, and so he accused him of being off his rocker, having screws loose. Obviously, he has to be off his rocker. Why? He burnt that rainbow flag, and we know that that's the symbol of everything good in the Vatican II Francis Church. So he tried to get this priest, so Father Kalchik was ejected, and basically said, oh, obviously you're crazy. You need to go to the priest nut house for treatments. You got to get your mind right, boy. Your mind is wrong, boy. So he tried to send him to the nut house, which obviously it's going to be like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where there's going to be a Nurse Ratched, and they'll be pumping him full of these chemicals and getting electroshock treatments, and he'll be, you will accept Vatican II, as he's getting shocked, and you will embrace the homosexual lifestyle. So eventually, you've seen the movie, I think in the end everybody breaks. So of course Father Kalchik is like, I'm not going to this priest nut house where they're going to do brainwashing, forget that. So, essentially, again, this is an illegal way for the diocese to get rid of a troublesome priest. It's easy. I see you saying the Latin Mass. Oh, I didn't know you were schizophrenic. Father John, I'll have to send you for an evaluation. Don't worry about everything. I'll send Father Pink Shirt and Feather Boa. He'll be taking over for you and make sure everything is okay with your parish while you go and take your psychological treatments, Father John. And there's nothing, apparently, I don't know if there's anything in canon law with this, but it's obviously a trick. But who cares about canon law? The bishop could come in here and say, you're going to have to go. You're divisive. It's so divisive. I mean, I feel like I'm being split in half just being in your presence with the divisiveness. So you have to go. I've heard complaints from the parish Karens, and we can't have that. Now let's talk about, get into the stuff about the sexual misconduct. And first off, it should come as no surprise to say, I am against sexual misconduct of priests. Against anyone, man, woman, or child. Priests should be chaste and not be doing anything sexually misconduct-y, or, however you want to put that. But we know that according to the Dallas Charter, there is almost no due process here. As soon as there's an allegation, whether true, false, or whatever, if the diocese deems it credible, whatever that means, I know that in a lot of places it just means, well, we know that this person who made the accusation existed and they were in this parish, and so therefore we have to take this seriously, and so therefore, Father John, you are suspended, you can't exercise a public ministry, and you have to go either go to the priest prison and stay at the priest prison, or go home and live with your mom, or if she's dead, you go live in your sister's basement along with the dog and all the toys and stuff like that, but you can't stay here because you are guilty until proven innocent. In our diocese, I know at least 2 priests who are on this accused list, both of whom have no idea even of what they're accused, because you're not told. So the priest isn't even told of what he's accused, and not even in a vague allegation. And I think that there's a reason for that. The reason for that is that the bishops don't want a canonical trial. And the reason is because the canonical trial has a discovery process. And if you use this discovery process, then all that could be used, that information that's gathered goes in the bishop's files, and it could be used by the secular authorities as part of a civil lawsuit. And so the bishop is not interested in making a paper trail involving any allegation. Why? Because it involves the most important thing, the money, man. We got to keep the money. So the truth and the falsehood and the priest's reputation and his service in the church doesn't matter. And what matters is that we can keep it under wraps so that the police never get a hold of these reports that we're drawing on. So yeah, like I said, I know 2 priests who are on this accused list. They have no idea even what they're accused. The bishop won't tell them, so they can't prepare a canonical defense, and Rome's not doing anything about it. It's just sitting there. And let's look at the last trick here that the bishops use. So according to the canon law, pastors of a parish have rights according to the canon law. Once they're installed there, they have privileges, rights, and obligations, and they're in some way independent from the bishop, and he can't willy-nilly boss them around. Of course, we know that bishops they don't follow the canon law, and bishops hate dealing with priests who have rights. So what they do is they'll assign priests as administrators, temporary administrators over a parish. Like I heard in Pittsburgh, that I think all those priests in Pittsburgh are just administrators.
Ooh.
There's like no pastors down there. You would have to verify this.
Oh, man.
And I know in some other dioceses they've done this as well, because you become a slave when you're the administrator, but a pastor is kind of like, he's kind of the heir of the family. So priests have no rights. Bishop can treat them as a slave. He can threaten them with removal and reassignment, or no assignment at all at any time. And so it just might be, Father John, there were some complaints from the Karens. You can't be administrator anymore, so see ya, you'll have to move out of the rectory. Well, what am I supposed to do? I don't know. I guess you can go live at the priest's retirement home, the priest prison. But what's my assignment? Well, maybe if something comes up, we'll have something for you to do. Since you don't have an assignment, we're cutting your pay. It's going to like $500 a week. But I can make more money on Trump bucks than I can being a priest. Well, see what happens when you become a priest of a bad diocese? Sorry about your luck. You see the way this relates. Remember, the bishop-priest relationship is supposed to be father and son. But now you see that it's like cop, criminal, prison guard versus convict. Back to Priest Lives Matter. It's like in some sense, it's the falsely accused person who's grabbed by the police and in the case of mistaken identity and roughed up or beaten or even thrown in jail, because people do get arrested who haven't committed crimes. That's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be father and son. So the bishop is supposed to sit down and say, "Hey, son, how's it going? Good to see you. You're looking good. Oh, what a beautiful house you have. Let's have a cookout. Bring the kids over. We'll swim in the pool and I'll cook hot dogs or whatever." But instead, it's this bureaucratic wasteland. And these guys who are bishops are not even the kinds of guys that normal priests would want to hang out with. They're like these slimy, just weird dudes. And you're like, that guy's odd. I don't want to be around him. Again, there's a small number who are really good. But anyway, so the point of this is priests' lives matter. And now that I've said this, I'm going to go throw rocks through cathedral windows. Well, not through the cathedral window because that's Catholic. I'll find the bishop's residence, which is probably adjacent to some golf course, and I'll throw rocks through it. And all his Cadillacs, his pink Cadillac, I will throw a rock through the window.
Now, I think we can all think of priests who would fall under this category where we need to lobby for priests' lives matter. A few I'm thinking of is Father Mark Goring and Father Matthew Mary from EWTN.
Mm-hmm.
They both got shut down because they made controversial statements, and it was too controversial even though it was Catholic.
Yeah.
And another thing you mentioned was the greatest sin of the liberals is to be divisive.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting considering Bishop Wilton Gregory's statement.
Yes, the Holy Wilton.
He had an anti-Trump statement. I'm sure you're all aware Donald Trump visited the shrine of Pope John Paul II, and Wilton Gregory, he released a statement criticizing Trump, saying, I don't even know, said it was like a political scam or something. And
Yeah.
now Vigano fired back.
He did, with a cannon.
And called him a false shepherd.
False shepherd.
And these are the bishops we're talking about today, are false
False shepherds, yes.
They're the ones who play all are welcome in their cathedrals, but what are they doing? They're limiting the number of people that can attend masses without offering additional masses. They're declining people communion on the tongue, saying you're not welcome.
Not welcome.
If you have a big family, you're not welcome either.
Watch mass on TV. Sorry.
If you're over 60, probably
Not
shouldn't come to
welcome.
mass. Not
It's
welcome.
Not safe. Ooh.
If you like the Latin mass, you should.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's divisive. It's rigid. We can't be rigid.
Too rigid.
But if you're a Buddhist, you're welcome. If you're a Hindu, you're welcome. But if you're Catholic, you're not welcome.
Female, Episcopalian, pretend bishop, come right up and sit in the sanctuary. If you're Donald Trump, you are not welcome because you are an orange bigot. And I don't want you in my cathedral, you orange man.
So what we're saying is priests' lives matter. These false shepherds, faithless bishops, we have nothing more to offer to say to them other than you're a false shepherd. We are the laity. We will not be silent. Thank you so much.
Power
Ryan.
to the Catholic people. Viva la counter-revolution.
Thank you so much.
Viva
Ryan.
Cristo Rey. Viva Cristo Rey.
Cristo Rey.